Welcome to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm your host, Pete Mezzetti. It's high school football night here tonight on the Pete Mezzetti Show, and with me to discuss the high school football season is Daniel Hand assistant coach Steve Filippone.
Good to see you, Peter.
Hey, buddy.
It's good to be with you again.
How are you, friend?
It's wonderful, wonderful. And you?
I'm great. I'm staying out. I'm staying out of trouble, and I'm staying off the streets.
Well, that's a good thing.
Well, I guess that's a good thing.
That's a good thing for all of us.
Absolutely.
Not only you. It's good for all of us. So.
Absolutely. Coach, what's new?
Life's been very good to me. I'm very happy to be coaching at Hand again with one of my former players, Eric Becker, who is now our new head coach, and someone who I think is going to be very, very successful as time moves forward. You know, there's a lot of work to be done, but you know, I really feel like we're up to the challenge, and we'll get going. So,
how's the team looking this year?
Good. We had a difficult start. We played Fairfield Prep, who a very large Catholic school.
Yep.
And we had to go down to their place, and you know, I think what a lot of people forget about the pandemic and its effect on, you know, high school football and many multitude of other things, obviously, is that these kids, many of them, haven't played since they were 8th graders. I mean, these are kids that are playing varsity football for the first time. They've got, you know, 4 weeks of preseason under their belt, and now all of a sudden they've got to go do it. So there's going to be across the board, there's going to be growing pains everywhere. You know, it's gonna be tough. But we ended up dropping our first game to Fairfield Prep. And then last week we were supposed to play Sheehan, and COVID reared its head once again.
Ooh.
And it turned out that East Haven, who had played Sheehan the week before, had a student test positive, a kid who had played during the game.
Oh no.
Yeah, so
COVID protocol had
so it caused them to have to do a significant amount of contact tracing and all that kind of stuff, and they just wouldn't have had enough kids to field a competitive team for last Friday night. So we basically had a bye week. And we had a bye week, which ends October 8th. And now our Sheehan game will be moved to October 8th. So we last week was kind of our bye week.
That's okay.
Yeah. So we play a very good New Canaan team on Friday night at the Surf Club. It'll be our opening game of the year at the club, and just a fabulous spot. Any of you who've never been there, you ought to go down. It's a great place to watch high school football. It's a great place to do lots of things.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Especially in the fall.
Dress
absolutely. Warm.
Yeah, I think we might have another couple weeks where we're not going to freeze down there. But when you get into late October, early November, it is when the wind starts blowing off the water. It's brutal.
Oh, absolutely.
We've been there.
I've been there numerous times.
We've been there on nights where, you know, you didn't think anything living could survive out there. So it was really bad.
Exactly.
But a great place to play.
Absolutely. Now you also teach at Hand, right?
Well, I did for 37 years.
What'd you teach?
I taught special ed, and I had a high school learning disabilities class, and I loved it. It was great work, and I was allowed me to coach, and then 6 years ago I retired and stayed out of it for 1 year, and just was, you know, I didn't know what to do with myself. I'm not a good retiree. You know, like you can't go from, and I think this is probably true of a lot of guys like me, you can't go from going 90 miles an hour, you know, coaching, working, being involved in all kinds of different activities, to just, you know, boom, like hit a wall, drop it down to 20.
Absolutely.
There's just too many spaces to fill. And so I went back to work at the high school as a security specialist. And this is my 6th year doing that. And we just celebrated, the school celebrated with me, which was kind of neat. I've been working continuously at Hand High School for 40 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And so that was kind of neat. They recognized that.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Plus, you get to hang out with Pete and I all day.
And I get to hang out with one of your favorite people, Pete and I. And he's a unique, very brilliant, smart guy who keeps you on your toes all the time. He was a heck of a football coach too.
Oh, absolutely, he was.
Very good.
He
one.
absolutely
Yeah.
was. All right. Speaking of coaches, when I say to you the word "the coach," he was here not long ago.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I can't wait to actually go home, get home, and maybe try to pull up that video.
Oh, absolutely.
George DeMeo is, I've spoken on his show dozens of times over the last 25 years.
Oh yeah.
And every time I end right before it's time for me to go off the air, I always said this, and I really believe it's 100% true. I don't think anybody's done more, especially in the New Haven area, but now all over the state of Connecticut,
Right. Absolutely.
to promote the positive aspects of high school football.
Absolutely.
And high school sports in general, than George DeMeo. He really is a iconic figure in Connecticut high school sports.
Absolutely.
And he's somebody who, is, because he has a platform, he's somebody who, commands that people, he doesn't command it, but his platform commands that people, lend their ear and give him the opportunity to kind of support certain things and also to look very honestly at other issues
Absolutely.
that aren't maybe as, maybe things aren't always as good as they can be. But the one thing I can say absolutely without reservation about George is that I have never once heard him say anything negative about a player, a coach, a community, a school system.
Right.
Never.
No.
It's just not in his repertoire to behave in that fashion. So you were lucky to get him. I mean, he is definitely an iconic figure in Connecticut high school sports. And then I understand you actually spoke to another person who I really admire, and that was Glenn Lungarini, the CIAC head of the executive director of CAST CIAC.
Oh yeah.
And as I said to you before we were on the air, the thing with Glenn is you really have to have a tremendous respect for the kind of work he does, because he can't possibly make everybody happy.
No.
And he literally is in one of those positions where it's impossible for him to please everybody.
Absolutely.
And many times it's impossible for him to please anybody.
Right.
Because he's got restrictions. I remember dealing with him and talking with him a lot last year about the effects of COVID on our football season, because I was the head coach at Hand last year.
That's right.
In the COVID year when we didn't play. And I recall having many conversations with him where, I went in, angry, ready to try to do something and get something done, and ended up leaving the conversation feeling like, oh my goodness, I wouldn't trade places with that guy for all the money in the world, because he's got to balance the health, the state's health department against local health departments, all that kind of stuff. But so I mean, right there, and you throw Pete and I in, that's three.
Yeah, right.
Those are three. You're very fortunate to have been able to have those guys on your set.
Absolutely. Now, as far as COVID, where we are now, and the football program, what's it look like as far as practice?
Well, it's things are very different in terms of what we can and can't do, and I think it's probably consistent across the state. Right. For example, we can't really do anything indoors.
No.
So our locker room is very small. We can have 20 players in at a time, so we've got to kind of we send them in waves. So 20 kids will go in, boom, they'll get changed. They come out, 20 more, and of course they're all wearing masks.
Absolutely.
And then 20 more will go in, and they'll come out. We have about 45 kids, so there's really 2 waves. And so anyway, that's really different. There's none of that, 45 guys sitting on the benches in the locker room getting ready for the pregame speech. That kind of stuff doesn't happen anymore. We can't train indoors in large groups. Water, interestingly enough, water is a huge issue because you really don't want kids drinking out of communal water bottles because obviously there's the possibility of transmission. So now, Johnny's cramping up and we got to find his water bottle on the sideline because, so I mean, it adds a whole nother dimension to everything that we do. And it doesn't change at all what happens on the football field.
No.
And it really doesn't change at all. Oh, I would say this is, absolute fact, and I know this is true for almost everybody. We used to meet for hours as a football staff.
Yeah.
And for you viewers out there, I mean, give your, now I'm not a head coach anymore, so I can say, give your head football coach a hug.
Absolutely.
Because you really have no idea how much time that, now man or woman, because we have a female football coach in the state of Connecticut
now, we do.
Who actually won her first game, which I think is historic, very, very history making. But you really have no idea how much work they do, how much meeting time goes into preparing a football team for a Friday night game, or to prepare them to get ready to go. So all of our meetings, Pete, are all Zoom.
Yeah.
We don't actually sit in the same room together anymore.
Not anymore.
And so we got really comfortable with Zoom. I mean, it's a great platform. Yesterday I was on my way back from Philadelphia.
Okay.
My son lives there, and my grandson was baptized. So
there you go.
We were on our way home. Of course, we're sitting in excruciatingly bad traffic on the George Washington Bridge.
Of course.
And we're having a coaches meeting.
There you go.
And bang, there it is on my phone. I'm able to sit in my car on the George Washington Bridge and be part of a meeting with our coaching staff. So,
there you go.
Zoom has really, I think, in a lot of ways helped us to become more efficient at what we do.
Cool.
And I don't think only football coaches, I think probably everyone is much more efficient than we used to be. Absolutely. So, I think the other piece of it is that you're going to have events like we had last week.
Right, exactly.
You're going to have somebody who's exposed, and there's going to be a ripple effect. There were, I think, 3 games canceled the first week, and I think 7 games were canceled last Friday night. So hopefully that number stabilizes. We don't see that continue to grow.
Yeah.
But that's, this is our new life.
Absolutely.
It's not. It's just a different gig now.
Absolutely. Would you mind sticking around for another segment?
Absolutely.
All right, we'll be right back.
I'll be seeing you in all the old familiar places.
So I've thought a lot about what I miss the most during this pandemic. And the thing that I miss the most is you.
I love playing to a live audience. There's nothing like it.
There's nothing like feeling the love that you guys give to us and we're trying to give to you, and I just can't wait to get back to that.
All these places that we stand in, the Ryman, Opry House, those places are just places if you don't put the people in them.
The COVID-19 vaccines are going to help us all get back to the moments we miss.
It's totally normal to have questions. I did too. That's why it's so important to get informed.
There's a lot of talk out there about the vaccines. So ask your doctor and get the facts. It's up to you.
Welcome back to this week's edition of the Pete Mezzetti Show. I'm Pete Mezzetti, sitting here with Steve Filippone. Steve, welcome back, my friend.
Well, it's good to be here again. As we said just a few minutes ago, it's great to be here and with you.
Absolutely.
And just have a chat about, whatever's on your mind.
Exactly. Hey, we're talking before in the first segment. There is a female football coach in the state of Connecticut?
Yeah, there's
Let's
a head
talk about
coach,
it.
and I apologize I apologize to you, whoever you are, that I don't know her name.
Yeah,
and I don't know. I know she coaches at a co-op.
Yes.
Because Game Time did a piece on her.
Right.
And the difficulty, I think, of running a co-op program. So not only is she a young woman coaching football, she's a young woman coaching football under some pretty difficult circumstances.
Absolutely.
So I'd love to meet her. I hope I will one day. She seems, from all reports, to be very capable, and she's won her first game. So,
Absolutely. Hey,
so that's groundbreaking for
Absolutely.
Connecticut. Probably groundbreaking for most states in the United States.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, as far as when you guys play football, are they allowing fans?
Yeah, they are.
Okay.
We don't have any restrictions on our fan base. They do for indoor sports.
Right.
I know, for example, girls volleyball is our only current indoor sport, and they're allowed to have 2 parents per player.
Okay.
So, and I think they're kind of even opening that up a little bit, But outdoors, I mean, I'm certainly not an expert on COVID, but from what I understand, that it's difficult to transmit the virus outdoors if you're not absolutely on top of somebody for a long period of time. So I think our health department and the state's health department felt like they didn't need to mandate any extra safety precautions in that regard.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
It's cool to have people in the stands.
Absolutely.
I mean, even I don't know if you watched a lot of college football. I watched.
Me too.
I watched Penn State play this weekend, and they had the whiteout.
I saw that.
108,000 people in a football stadium, all. Just literally packed in on top of one another. And you think about a year ago, that stadium might have had 200 people in it.
Exactly.
And so that's how far we've come. But then on the other side of that coin, you look at the numbers in our country, and you look at the variants, and you look at the number of people who are still unvaccinated, and it makes you wonder if we've really come very far at all.
Absolutely.
And so it's still a very difficult situation, one that requires a lot further work.
Absolutely. Now, as far as the school goes, and with what's going on with the COVID, how are things looking in the school building?
Well,
obviously you guys
we're 100%. 100% of our kids are in school and coming to school. We have no option for remote learning.
Okay, sure.
We did all of last year. Even when we went back full time toward the end of the year, we had an option for remote learning, which ironically, many athletes chose to take, and for good reason.
Right.
So if you get caught in a contact trace at school, you can't likely that you'll be quarantined. You can't participate, or you couldn't if you were unvaccinated and you were part of a contact trace.
Right.
It was likely that you would be quarantined for 10 to 14 days.
Right.
Now, you take 10 to 14 days out of a baseball player's life, let's say in the fall, the spring, and that could be 6 games.
Right.
That's a third of the season.
Absolutely.
So a lot of these guys, and young women, chose to do the full remote
remote learning
activity,
Yeah.
and thereby not putting themselves in a position where they could be part of a school-wide contact trace. So we really didn't lose many athletes in the spring. Lacrosse went to the state finals. Baseball won the state finals. We're very proud of those guys.
That's right.
But in the winter, when we had indoor sports,
Yeah, that's where it gets a little.
yeah, our hockey team couldn't complete the season. I mean, they were literally, so many of them were quarantined so many times
Right.
that they couldn't complete the season. And so I think once we got outside in the spring, things really turned around, and we were able to kind of get back to a state of normalcy in terms of getting games in, getting champion. You know, the CIEC agreed to run the championships, as I'm sure Glenn spoke of.
Oh yeah.
Which we didn't do in the winter.
Right.
Football was hoping to have that gap
Yep.
season, but because of problems with the winter schedule having to be moved
Yeah.
forward, that ate up most of the time that was allotted for us, so we didn't get it. So I mean, you know, it's been something. You know, I've been in the business of high school athletics and education for, like I said, 40 years.
Right.
And you know, there's never been anything that even remotely
No.
has had an impact on our just way of life as educators and coaches as this pandemic. And you know, I knock on wood here, I hope that that I don't ever have to live through anything like this again.
Absolutely not. And I'm sure during like traveling with the team, it's got to be, you guys are socially distanced on the bus.
We do, and we have to keep records of who's sitting where.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be kind of strategic about it.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to put starters together.
No.
Because if you get a contact trace, you're going to lose 2 starters.
Right.
So we always have starters kind of strategically placed in the 2 buses, and then we fill in around them with backups,
Right.
hoping that if, God forbid, we had a positive case, then it wouldn't take out too many of the guys who we count on Friday night to play.
No.
But I mean, whoever would have thought that we'd be talking about this,
I know.
you know? So yeah, that's definitely something we have to think about. We have to wear masks on the buses.
Absolutely.
The windows have to be down.
Yep.
Right now, that's fine.
Right.
In November,
Things get a little bit cold.
that might not be so good.
Right.
You know, so yeah, I think there's many aspects of this whole thing that.
Absolutely.
But you know, the whole thing, Pete, is you know. Modify and adjust.
Absolutely.
I mean, is an old military kind of
Absolutely.
standard.
Absolutely.
And so you never let your circumstances dictate what you're going to do.
No.
You have to control those. You know, you can control certain things. You can't control everything.
No, of course not.
But we can do our best to keep our kids safe. And we've not, at least since February, March of this year, we haven't had a single incident
Well, that's a good thing.
with our kids where we lost somebody.
You know, before we say goodnight, one other person besides Glenn with the CIAC that we talked about before, we also have to give a little bit of a shout out. Besides working with the CIAC, the local athletic directors and how they probably their job probably isn't as fun.
Unbelievable what
And
those
especially
men and women
in Madison.
what those men and women have had to do. Craig Semple,
Absolutely.
you know, who I selfishly believe that he's as good an athletic director as anybody's ever had the privilege to work with. I mean,
Absolutely.
and I've been able to work with him as a head coach, as an assistant, as a member of our faculty. So I've seen him in every aspect of his life, and there's no finer human being out there
Absolutely
than Craig.
not.
And but his life has been made very difficult by this pandemic and the effects it's had on and like I said, on every aspect of what we do as educators and coaches. But you know what? He keeps a positive attitude. The one thing Craig constantly says to all of us is, look, my job is to make your job easy.
Absolutely.
My job is to allow you the freedom to coach effectively and to provide the best possible program you can for the young people of Madison. So
Absolutely.
that's what he does.
Oh, yeah.
And outside of that, I kind of like him as just a hang around guy too. He can hit a golf ball a country mile.
Oh, can he?
If he gets into it. If he misses it, it goes sideways a country mile. So,
I've had him on with me before. He's just seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah, I know. And I think the thing about him that makes him different is that he really, and he gets himself jammed up for this, frankly. He's really a coach, player centered guy. He's he knows he's got to work with the administration. He knows he's got to deal with the Board of Education. But reality for him is, I'm in the trenches with my coaches and the players, and that's where I want to be. That's where I'm the most comfortable, and and he does a great job for us.
Steve Filippone, we're out of time. Thanks for some time, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Peter, thanks for having me on.
Pal.
I really appreciate it.
You got it. On behalf of Steve Filippone, I'm Pete Mezzetti. Thanks. Good night. We'll see you next time.